Analysis of the Proclamation of the Philippine Independence. Proclamation of the Independence of the Philippines by Jose P. Laurel, President of the Preparatory Commission for Philippine Independence, Manila, October 14, 1943. Love of freedom has always been the dominating impulse which has given the historical evolution of the Filipino race a meaning and a purpose. In war and in peace, the Filipino have ceaselessly fought and labored for their freedom ever since they were brought under foreign yoke. First under Spanish for 300 years or more and later under American for the last 40 years. Their incessant and arduous quest for liberation has been hallowed by the blood and suffering of countless Filipino heroes and martyrs. As a consequence of the Greater East Asia War, the great Nepalese Empire, true to its altruistic mission in waging that war, has enabled the Filipino people to realize last their dream of freedom by allowing them to form a preparatory commission for the Philippine independence, to adopt a constitution for an independent Philippines, and to take all other requisite steps for the establishment of the Republic of the Philippines. Then, after 300 years of Spanish domination, Filipino insurgents led by Emilio Aguinaldo declared independence from Spain during the Spanish-American War. Filipino revolutionaries and U.S. troops has driven the Spaniards out by mid-August, but Aguinaldo's aspirations for independence were shattered when the U.S. legally seized the Philippines as part of its peace accord with Spain. In the late 16th century, the Spanish invaded the Philippines, a huge island archipelago off the coast of Southeast Asia. Filipino priests who disliked Spanish dominance of the Roman Catholic churches on the islands were the first to rise up against Spanish control. Filipino intellectuals and the middle class began calling for independence in the late 80s. So, Aguinaldo made plans with U.S. authorities to return to the Philippines and aid the U.S. in the battle against Spain while in exile. On May 19, arrived in Manila, gathered his revolutionaries, and began liberating towns to the south. He declared Philippine independence on June 12 and established a regional administration of which he later became the head. The Filipino people value their independence as the blessed fruit of the sacrifices of their heroic forefathers and brothers who fought and died in far-flung battlefields from Mactan to Bataan in their persistent struggle for freedom. This is the moment they have long awaited. This is the bright morning after the long night of their colonial subjection. With heads erect and brows serene, they now stand in the sun even as once, more than 400 years ago. Their forefathers stood up as freedom beholden to none, for the ancient honor of their nation is redeemed at last. For the rich and unbounded opportunities that freedom offers are now within their grasp. The opportunity to govern themselves and to run their affairs without intervention of any foreign power. The opportunity to develop their natural resources and thus ensure their economic self-sufficiency under the principle of the Philippines for the Filipinos. The opportunity to discover and develop their individuals and national potentialities uninhibited by the force of the political subjection or by the blight of racial prejudice. The opportunity to rehabilitate themselves in mind and in spirit, in accordance with the best that man has thought and said and done through ages. The opportunity to find themselves anew, learn the ways they have forgotten, and make themselves into the nation that God and nature intended they should be. The opportunity to establish a sovereign republic dedicated to the ideal peace, liberty, and moral justice. So, Ambrosio Rianzares Bautista, also known as Don Busyong, wrote the Declaration of the Philippine Independence, which was later translated by Sulpicio Guevara, a novelist born in 1904. Ambrosio Rianzares Bautista was born in Bian, Laguna. Captain Sea General of the Philippines on December 7, 1830. Born in Bian, Laguna, the Declaration of Philippine Independence, the Declaration de Independencia de Filipinas, was signed on June 12, 1968, on the balcony of General Emilio Aguinaldo's home in Cavite, 2 El Viejo, Kawit, Cavite, Philippines. The war counselor and special delegate Ambrosio Rianzares Bautista announced and solemnized the declaration of Philippine independence on behalf of the dictatorial government of the Philippines, pursuant to and by virtue of a decree issued by the egregious dictator Don Emilio Aguinaldo Infame. A total of 98 people signed the proclamation. Thousands of people from all across the country flocked to Kawit, Cavite to witness the historic event. Military personnel, representatives from other municipalities, and other public officials were present to witness the historic occasion. The purpose of this statement is to proclaim the Philippines' sovereignty and independence from the Spanish Empire's colonial control. The Declaration of Philippine Independence is a document released by the Philippine government. This document's objective is to remind ourselves, the colonists, and the rest of the world that the Philippines declared independence from the colonizers. The proclamation listed a number of grievances against the Spanish government dating back to the arrival of explorer Ferdinand Magellan in 1521. The Declaration of Philippine Independence is significant in our country since it provides us confirmation of our country's independence from colonizers. This paper compiles and explains all of the events that occurred throughout the colony's 300-year conquest. This government issued document can establish that our country and ourselves were freed from colonial rule, implying that we have the right to live freely and equally. It teaches us to be more self-reliant and to fight for ourselves and our country so that we can exercise our right to live in freedom, peace, and unity with others. So that would be all for the analysis of the Proclamation of Philippine Independence. Thank you for watching and God bless everyone.